From humanity's earliest awareness, as we began to grasp the world around us, we encountered a concept both terrifying and mesmerizing: the abyss. It existed in ancient Greek as abyssos, a combination of a, without, and byssos, bottom, a simple yet powerful term, bottomless. Imagine in those early days when darkness was not merely the absence of light, but the embodiment of the unknown, of lurking dangers. Humans looked down into the depths of the vast ocean, or into bottomless caves, and felt a profound terror. This wasn't just fear of bloodthirsty creatures hiding in the dark. It was the fear of nothingness itself, of an infinite space they could never reach, never comprehend. Abyssos, the abyss, became the dwelling place of the most primal fears, where order and laws are distorted, where darkness reigns supreme. The concept of the abyss wasn't limited to instinctual feelings. It became ingrained in religion and mythology, an integral part of humanity's attempt to explain the universe. In the Bible, the book of Revelation, the final chapter of the New Testament, describes the abyss as a literal gate to hell, a prison for the most malevolent forces. Picture a giant black hole opening in the earth, sulfurous smoke billowing out, blocking the sun. From this dense darkness, a monstrous locust army with destructive power emerges, led by Apollyon, the king of the abyss, the destroyer. This image, with its immense symbolic power, instilled terror in generations of believers, transforming the abyss into a symbol of punishment and doomsday. In Greek mythology, the abyss is personified as Tartarus, an ancient entity and a dark prison located even deeper than Hades. While Hades is the resting place for souls after death, Tartarus is where the enemies of the gods, the Titans, the Cyclopes, and those who dared to challenge Zeus's authority are imprisoned. To be cast into Tartarus meant being thrown into an eternal void of darkness and cold, where the wind howls through endless chasms, where all hope is extinguished, leaving only the wails of tortured souls. But before even Tartarus, according to Hesiod's Theogony, there was chaos, a chaotic, undefined void that existed before the universe was formed. Chaos was not nothingness, but a primal state of matter, an infinite potential, where everything existed in an undifferentiated mess. From chaos, all things gradually formed, and Tartarus appeared later as a complement, a prison for what was rebellious, what opposed order. Thus, in Greek mythology, chaos and Tartarus, these two concepts created the image of the abyss as both nothingness and existence, both chaos and prison, both the origin of all things and the place that destroys everything. It is the fear, the temptation, the mystery that humans always yearn to decode but also dread facing. The abyss, therefore, is not just a place but also a state of mind, a symbol of what lies beyond human understanding. So what truly is the abyss? A physical location, an abstract concept, or a part of ourselves? In Christianity, the image of the abyss is heavily emphasized in the book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament, laden with symbolism and portents of the end times. Close your eyes and imagine a mighty angel holding the key to the abyss, blowing a trumpet that echoes across heaven and earth. The ground shakes, a giant pit cracks open, and from it pours a thick, black smoke that blots out the sun, carrying the stench of sulfur and mournful cries. Then, from within that smoke emerge hideous creatures, monstrous locusts with wild hair like horses' manes, fierce faces, and scorpion tails filled with deadly venom. They are led by Apollyon, the fallen angel, the ruler of the abyss, unleashing disaster and destruction upon the world. The image of the abyss in Revelation is not just a location, it's the embodiment of punishment, of God's wrath, a warning about the consequences of sin. The imagery of the abyss in Revelation is deeply ingrained in Christian consciousness and used in exorcism rituals. Priests, acting as God's representatives, perform rites to expel demons, evil spirits, from the possessed. It's believed that these spirits are then permanently banished to the abyss, returned to their bottomless prison, where they will face eternal confinement, and punishment. The existence of the abyss, therefore, serves as a constant reminder of God's power, the triumph of light over darkness, good over evil, but also a threat of the terrible fate awaiting those who defy God's will. Entering the Middle Ages in Europe, the obsession with the abyss, hell, and demons intensified. This was a time of social unrest, plagues, wars, and death, factors that further reinforced belief in the supernatural, in the existence of a parallel world where Satan and his minions constantly sought to tempt and destroy human souls. Folk tales spread widely, recounting terrifying dreams, instances where peasants witnessed the gates of hell opening in the middle of fields, demons emerging from the earth, demanding sacrifices, souls in exchange for wealth or power. The Inquisition was established in the name of God, conducting bloody purges, hunting down and eliminating those deemed witches, heretics, people accused of selling their souls to the devil, compromising with the abyss to gain supernatural powers. Bonfires blazed everywhere, screams and cries of the executed filled the night, all creating a dark, fearful atmosphere, further solidifying the image of the abyss as a dark force, constantly lurking, threatening human life. Moving into the Renaissance, despite the flourishing of science and art, the image of the abyss continued to haunt the human psyche. This is clearly reflected in the masterpiece Paradise Lost by the great poet John Milton. In this epic poem, Milton paints a grand picture of the war between God and Satan, the fall of the rebellious angels, and the formation of hell. Chaos, in Paradise Lost, is personified, becoming a chaotic entity, an anarchic power, standing outside the war, sarcastically watching Satan and his demons struggle through the flickering, chaotic darkness to find their way to earth, with the intention of defiling God's perfect creation, humanity. The abyss appears as a black ocean, torn apart by terrifying storms, the boundary between heaven and hell, where dark forces constantly fight for power. Milton, through Paradise Lost, not only retold a biblical story, but also posed profound philosophical questions about good and evil, free will and fate, temptation and fall, all revolving around the haunting image of the abyss. Thus, through the lens of religion, the abyss transformed from an abstract concept into a concrete dark force, a tool of deterrence, a constant obsession in the Western psyche. But does the abyss exist only in scriptures and oral traditions? Moving away from religious obsessions, we enter the realm of 19th and 20th century philosophy, where the abyss is no longer God's punishment or the devil's domain, but an allegory for existential crises, profound reflections on human nature and existence. Philosophers, with their sharpness and boldness, engaged in a challenging dialogue with the abyss, pushing the boundaries of thought to the extreme and forcing us to reevaluate seemingly immutable values and beliefs. Opening this philosophical journey is Friedrich Nietzsche, an iconoclast with a razor-sharp intellect who dared to stare into the abyss without fear. His immortal words, "When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you," have become a haunting warning. Nietzsche didn't see the abyss as an external entity, but as an inherent part of humanity, the embodiment of nihilism, the rejection of all values and meaning. The more we immerse ourselves in darkness, the more we question absolute truths, the more we risk being swallowed by nothingness itself. The abyss also gazes into you means that we are gradually becoming part of it, losing our direction, losing our faith, falling into a state of moral decay, where all values are shaken, all standards collapse. The abyss, in Nietzsche's philosophy, is no longer a geographical location, but a way of life. A dangerous line that each individual must confront, must overcome to affirm their will and strength. Following Nietzsche's ideas, but with a different perspective, the existentialism of Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus pushed humanity to the brink of absurdity. They stripped away all illusions of a preordained cosmic order, of a predetermined purpose in life, and threw humanity into an empty, meaningless existence, an abyss of absolute but also bewildering freedom. Man is condemned to be free, Sartre declared. We are alone in the vast universe, without God, without fate, without any fixed essence. Each individual must create their own meaning in life, build their own values, and take responsibility for every choice. The abyss in existentialism is precisely that emptiness, the overwhelming feeling in the face of absolute freedom, the existential loneliness when facing an absurd world without ready-made answers. However, unlike Nietzsche, existentialists don't see absurdity as the end. They argue that facing the abyss of absurdity, accepting the existential condition, is the prerequisite for true freedom, the driving force for humans to create and affirm their own values. Martin Heidegger, a philosopher who profoundly influenced existentialism, approached the abyss from a different angle through the concept of angst, anxiety. Angst is not simply ordinary fear, but a metaphysical anxiety, a deep-seated unease about the finitude of existence, about death, about the nothingness that awaits ahead. Heidegger called humans Dasein, being there, beings who are always thrown into the world, always facing time, and always heading towards death. The abyss, in Heidegger's philosophy, is an allegory for that nothingness, for the realm of non-existence that all Dasein must experience. The awareness of finitude, of inevitable death, creates angst, forcing humans to confront the question of the meaning of existence. The moment of facing the abyss of nothingness is also when humans shed all safe shells, all illusions of eternity, to confront their true nature, to seek authentic meaning for their short lives. If philosophy brings us to the edge of the abyss, psychoanalysis dares to venture into the black hole itself, exploring the depths of the unconscious, where the most secret, conflicting, and primal drives of humans are hidden. The abyss, in this realm, is no longer a metaphysical concept, but a powerful allegory for the complex inner self, for the shadowed corners that each of us carries within. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, revolutionized our understanding of the human being. He likened the human mind to an iceberg, with the visible part being consciousness and the enormous submerged part, hidden beneath the water, being the unconscious. Freud divided the psychic structure into three parts: id, ego, and superego. The id is the embodiment of the abyss within the soul. The id operates on the pleasure principle, a reservoir of primal instincts, intense desires, especially sexuality and aggression, constantly demanding immediate gratification regardless of consequences. It's like a wild, blind child, unaware of right and wrong, knowing only its instinctual needs. If the id is not controlled by the ego, the rational part that mediates between the id and reality, and the superego, representing conscience, moral standards, and social rules, it will become a black hole of desire, an abyss that swallows all reason, dragging individuals into extreme, destructive, even self-destructive behaviors. Internal conflicts, bizarre dreams, and irrational behaviors, according to Freud, are all manifestations of the constant struggle between the id, ego, and superego, echoes from the unconscious abyss trying to express themselves. Carl Jung, Freud's student and later his critic, developed psychoanalytic theory in a new direction, delving deeper into the unconscious abyss. He introduced the concept of the shadow, a part of the collective unconscious that contains everything that consciousness rejects and represses. Negative emotions like envy, fear, anger, desires deemed evil or morbid, primal instincts that civilized society forces humans to suppress. The shadow is our dark side, the monster hiding in the inner abyss. Jung believed that the path to perfection, to individual wholeness, individuation, is not to reject or suppress the shadow, but to integrate it. This means bravely facing the inner abyss, looking directly into the darkest corners of oneself, acknowledging and accepting those ugly, terrifying parts. This process, of course, is not easy. It requires extraordinary courage, absolute honesty with oneself, and will undoubtedly go through painful, spiritually turbulent phases. But, according to Jung, it's the only way to achieve inner balance, to become a complete individual, no longer dominated by unconscious impulses. The concept of a journey falling into the abyss to be reborn stronger is further developed by Joseph Campbell, a renowned mythologist, in his theory of the hero's journey. In his classic book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, Campbell analysed thousands of myths and legends from cultures around the world and pointed out that most heroes undergo a common pattern. They leave the ordinary world, embark on a dangerous adventure, face difficult challenges, die and are reborn, literally or figuratively, in a dark place, often likened to hell, to the abyss, and finally return with new power, new wisdom, a new self. That near-death point is the abyss, where the hero must confront their greatest fear, the most terrifying monster, often the embodiment of their own shadow. And then, overcoming the challenge, they obtain the elixir and return to save the world or themselves. The abyss, in this case, becomes the ultimate test, a crucible where the hero's mettle, will, and spiritual strength are forged. Dante Alighieri, the great medieval poet, began this literary journey with a descent into hell in his masterpiece Inferno, the first part of the Divine Comedy. Guided by the Roman poet Virgil, Dante travelled through the 9 circles of hell, each a dead end of sin, where souls suffer punishment commensurate with their wrongdoings in life. Imagine a giant funnel carved into the earth, narrowing as it descends, with increasingly horrific punishments. From the whirlwind that sweeps away the lustful in the 2nd circle to the boiling river of blood, phlegathon for the violent in the 7th circle, then the icy pits imprisoning the treacherous in the 9th circle. Each circle of hell is a variation of the abyss, a place of eternal torment. The atmosphere is thick with fire, smoke, screams, and the smell of sulfur, creating a terrifying picture of the consequences of sin. And at the very bottom of Inferno, at the center of the abyss, is Satan, a giant demon frozen in ice, with 3 heads and 6 wings, gnawing on Judas Iscariot, the betrayer of Jesus. The image of Satan, silent, imprisoned in ice, exudes absolute loneliness, eternal suffering, turning the 9th circle of an inferno into a frozen abyss, where all hope is extinguished, where sin converges and is eternally imprisoned. If Dante takes us down to the abyss of sin and punishment, H.P. Lovecraft, the master of cosmic horror, thrusts us into another abyss, an abyss of the vast universe, of madness and utter terror. In Lovecraft's world, humans are insignificant, fragile beings, existing in an indifferent universe ruled by ancient entities, elder gods, malevolent deities with power far beyond human comprehension. The abyss in Lovecraft's universe is not just the geographical space between stars, but also metaphysical dimensions, parallel realities, where the laws of physics are bent, where time and space merge, and where the most terrible secrets of the universe are hidden. A mere glimpse of Cthulhu, one of the great old ones with a grotesque form and giant tentacles, or Azathoth, the blind idiot god, at the center of the universe, is enough to drive humans insane, to lose all reason, to fall into a state of eternal delirium. For Lovecraft, the abyss is the embodiment of nothingness, of absurdity, of the ultimate horror, when humans realize their smallness and helplessness before incomprehensible supernatural forces. And to connect with these terrifying realities, Lovecraft created the Necronomicon, the forbidden book written by the mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred. This book, according to legend, contains forbidden knowledge about the great old ones, about demonic rituals to summon them, and about the mysterious dimensions where they reside. The Necronomicon is the gateway to the abyss, a one-way ticket taking the reckless into a world of hallucinations, madness, and indescribable horror. Anyone who reads the Necronomicon will be haunted by terrifying images, demonic sounds, and gradually lose their sanity, falling into a state of paranoia, believing they can communicate with the ancient entities, opening the gate for them to return to this world. The Necronomicon, therefore, becomes a symbol of the temptation of forbidden knowledge, of the price to be paid when humans try to exceed their limits, to touch secrets that should never be known. Through the lens of Dante and Lovecraft, the abyss appears with both concrete and abstract forms, both a hell that punishes sin and a vast universe containing terrifying entities. But the abyss doesn't just exist in books. It's also explored in other areas that seem unreal, but are closely related to humanity's deepest fears. Throughout history, there have always been individuals and groups who yearn to transcend the limits of conventional knowledge, to touch the secrets of the universe, and even to control supernatural forces. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, founded in the late 19th century, is one of the most famous secret societies pursuing this path. Through complex magical rituals, inspired by various sources such as Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, and ancient magical systems, the members of the Golden Dawn believed they could achieve spiritual enlightenment, even communicate with supernatural entities. Another prominent figure, Aleister Crowley, the rebel of the Golden Dawn, founded Thelema, a separate philosophical and magical system, with the central tenet being, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Crowley, who called himself the Great Beast 666, delved deeply into the study and practice of magic, especially sex magic, and wrote extensively about the abyss. For Crowley, the abyss was a spiritual boundary, a state of transition that the practitioner of magic had to leap across, to face and overcome their deepest fears, illusions, and the constraints of the ego, in order to achieve union with their true will, with the divine power within. However, Crowley also warned that this is a dangerous journey. If not careful, the practitioner could be swallowed by the abyss, lose their sanity, fall into madness, and never return. The danger of bargaining with darkness to achieve supernatural power is also evident in sacrificial rituals and demonic summoning. The story of Faust, the scholar who sold his soul to the demon Mephistopheles in exchange for knowledge and pleasure, is just one of countless tales about the temptation of the abyss. In many cultures, especially in medieval Europe, there were persistent beliefs in the power of sacrificial rituals, from animals to humans, in the darkest stories, to seek favors from dark forces, to open the gates of hell, summon demons, and achieve desired things, such as wealth, fame, and power. These rituals were often performed in secret at specific times, with incantations, demonic symbols, and blood oaths. It was believed that the abyss, as the source of all evil forces, would respond to these pleas, granting them power. But the price to pay was the eternal destruction of the soul, complete dependence on darkness. The line between science, pseudoscience, and magic, especially in the Middle Ages, was often very thin. Alchemy, a discipline combining chemistry, philosophy, and magic, was once considered black science, condemned by the church for its mystical aspects and connections to demons. Alchemists, with their ambition to turn base metals into gold, sought the philosopher's stone to achieve immortality, conducted mysterious experiments, used strange symbols, and performed rituals that today we might consider pseudoscience. Although alchemy is later seen as the precursor to modern chemistry, it cannot be denied that, for a long time, it was associated with attempts to unlock the abyss, to seek supernatural power from dark forces. And even today, there are still secret societies, groups of people who believe in the power of magic, in ancient rituals, and continue to practice secret ceremonies, with the belief that the abyss is a mysterious energy source, a gateway to another reality, which they can tap into and control. The journey to explore the abyss in the real world begins with the abyssal zone, the deep ocean where sunlight never reaches. From a depth of 3,000 meters to over 6,000 meters, it is a completely different world, a water hell with crushing pressure that can destroy any ordinary creature. Eternal darkness reigns, The temperature is freezing cold and life becomes brutally scarce. Yet, in this extreme harshness, there are still bizarre creatures, the monsters of the abyss. Fang-toothed fish with sharp teeth, giant squids with eyes as big as plates, giant tube worms living symbiotically with chemosynthetic bacteria, and countless bioluminescent creatures creating their own eerie light to hunt and communicate in the darkness. For many, the abyssal zone is the embodiment of the abyss in legend, a place of darkness, of undiscovered mysteries, and of creatures so bizarre they are hard to believe. Just imagining yourself lost in the vast ocean, sinking to the bottom, where light fades, where water pressure bears down, and surrounded by endless blackness, is enough to make you shudder, to feel the primal fear of humans before the abyss. Leaving the seabed, we turn our gaze to the night sky, to the twinkling stars, and to even greater mysteries, the abyss of the universe. In astronomy, there is a concept that also carries destructive power and ultimate mystery: the black hole. Like the abyss in mythology, a black hole is a pit in space-time, with gravity so strong that nothing can escape, not even light. All matter, all information, when falling into a black hole, is swallowed and disappears forever. Stephen Hawking, the great theoretical physicist, dedicated his life to studying black holes, and he discovered that they are not completely black, but emit a type of radiation, Hawking radiation, and gradually evaporate over time. However, the image of the event horizon, the boundary from which there is no return, still evokes a chill, a fear of nothingness, of an infinite abyss, ready to eat everything, even space and time itself. The black hole, therefore, becomes a symbol of the abyss in the universe, a reminder of humanity's smallness before the vastness and mystery of space. But the abyss doesn't just exist in faraway places like the ocean floor or outer space. It can also exist within each of us, in the psychological abysses that we sometimes face. Depression, anxiety disorders, and negative psychological states, when reaching their peak, can create a feeling of falling into a black hole in the soul. It is utter despondency, a complete loss of motivation and hope, emotional numbness, deadlock, despair, with no way out. People often describe this state as free-falling in an endless space, with no support, no light, falling forever without ever hitting the bottom. This is the psychological abyss, a state that many of us have experienced or witnessed in those around us. It is a reminder that the abyss is not just an abstract concept, but also a reality, a painful and terrifying experience. Thus, the abyss is not only an image in religion, philosophy, or literature, but also a part of the natural world, from the deep ocean floor to the vast expanse of the universe, and even within human psychology. The abyss is both fear and temptation, a mystery to be explored. But humans, with their inherent curiosity and desire for conquest, have not only stopped at looking into the abyss, but have also sought to enter it through art, especially cinema and theatre. From the pages of books, oral traditions, philosophical reflections, and even psychological obsessions, the abyss has emerged from the shadows, vividly present on the screen and the stage, becoming an endless source of inspiration for artists and an indispensable spiritual food for those who love thrills, suspense, and also reflections on the nature of fear. Cinema, with the power of images and sound, has become a great medium for exploring the theme of the abyss. In particular, the Western horror genre has found a goldmine of ideas in the abyss to create terrifying, haunting, and symbolic films. Event Horizon, 1997, is a typical example. The film tells the story of a spaceship that, after testing a device for faster-than-light travel, accidentally opens a portal to another dimension, a real abyss, where the laws of physics are overturned, where nightmares become reality. The crew, after returning from that horrific journey, are corrupted, become insane, and slaughter each other. The gory images, the terrifying hallucinations, the frantic screams in the cold metal corridors, all create a suffocating, extremely tense atmosphere, making Event Horizon a monument of the space horror genre, and a powerful testament to the power of the abyss in evoking humanity's most primal fears. Another example, The Descent, 2005, takes us down to an abyss in the literal sense of the word. A group of friends on a cave exploration trip get trapped in a dark underground cave system and discover that they are not alone. Creatures that have never seen sunlight, night hunters with hideous forms, turn the exploration into a desperate escape. The heavy breathing, the dripping water, the echoes of mysterious creatures, along with the cramped, dark space of the cave, all create a primal fear, the fear of what is hidden in the dark, the helplessness of humans before wild nature, and the abyss itself, waiting to swallow them. Not limited to cinema, the abyss is also a source of inspiration for music, fine art, and especially Gothic culture. In Gothic culture, the abyss is a symbol of melancholy, pain, rebellion, and also a romantic, tragic beauty. Rock and metal bands, especially Gothic metal, often use images of the abyss, demons, darkness, and symbols of death on album covers, in lyrics, and in their performance style to create music that is haunting, powerful, and full of emotion. The image of the abyss in Gothic music is not simply a symbol of negativity, but also a declaration of freedom, of breaking the constraints of society, and of finding beauty in the darkest things. In fine art, especially surrealism, the abyss is also explored creatively. Paintings with surreal landscapes, bizarre images, undefined spaces, where the sky cracks open, the ground opens into bottomless pits, all evoke a sense of unease, an overwhelming feeling before the mystery of the universe, and before the abyss that exists in the human subconscious. The world of games and comics is also not immune to the abyss fever. Dark Souls, a famous action role-playing game series, has built a dark, ruined world where hope seems to have faded. The abyss in Dark Souls is a dark force, a corrosive magic, threatening the survival of kingdoms. The player, in the role of undead warriors, must fight against hordes of monsters, overcome deadly traps, and face the abyss that is gradually invading their souls. When falling into the abyss, the character can lose their humanity, turning into hollows, soulless zombies, wandering aimlessly, losing all will and purpose. The image of the abyss in Dark Souls, therefore, is not just a challenge in the game, but also an allegory for the fight against despair, against corruption, and the effort to find meaning in a dark world. In the world of comics, Hellboy, by Mike Mignola, is another typical example. Hellboy, a demon summoned from hell, but who fights against dark forces, protecting humanity. Throughout the series, Hellboy has repeatedly confronted creatures from the abyss, monsters that eat darkness, and portals to other dimensions, ruled by ancient, evil entities. Hellboy, with its unique drawing style, compelling storyline, and epic battles, has given readers a new perspective on the abyss, not just as a place of demons, but also as a place of adventures, battles between good and evil, and a place that tests the courage of heroes. Thus, the abyss, from an abstract concept, has become a star in the world of art and entertainment, appearing on the screen, in music, in games and comics, bringing us emotional experiences, from fear and suspense to contemplation and reflection. But does the abyss always have negative, deathly meanings? Is there or is there not a strange attraction, a temptation from the abyss itself? The story of Faust, the German alchemist in Goethe's play of the same name, has become a legend, a warning about the dangers of unbridled ambition. Faust, a learned scholar, dedicated his life to pursuing knowledge but still felt unsatisfied. He craved knowledge beyond human limits, a power that could understand all the secrets of the universe. And then, Mephistopheles, the embodiment of the devil, appeared, offering a pact. Faust's soul would belong to him, in exchange for 24 years of life on Earth with complete pleasure, power, and superhuman knowledge. Faust, seduced by this prospect, agreed, signing the contract in blood. The image of Faust, since then, has become a symbol of human downfall, of the temptation of the abyss, when ambition, power, and knowledge beyond limits obscure reason, making people willing to trade everything, even their souls, to achieve their desires. The abyss that Faust falls into is not just hell in the literal sense, but also emptiness, the torment of conscience, when he realizes that all knowledge, all power, becomes meaningless when the soul is tainted, when humanity is lost. The story of Faust is just one of many tragedies in literature, mythology, and even in real life, showing that humans often push themselves into the abyss by insatiable desires, by greed, selfishness, and arrogance. The desire for power, the desire for immortality, the desire for wealth, the desire to be loved. All these desires, when pushed to the extreme, will become an abyss in the soul, gnawing at humanity, morality, and ultimately destroying the person. Tyrants, dictators, corrupt individuals, and even ordinary people, when blinded by greed, can become victims of themselves, falling into a spiral of sin, where each wrong step brings them closer to the brink of destruction. The price to pay for these ambitions is sometimes not only physical punishment, but also mental torment, loneliness, belated remorse, and the eternal destruction of the soul. But what is even more terrifying is that this downfall often happens gradually, step by step, like an irresistible slide. When we look into the abyss, as Nietzsche warned, the abyss also looks back at us. Evil, hidden in ordinary desires, in selfish calculations, in seemingly harmless lies, will gradually extend its claws, infiltrating every corner of the soul. Greed, envy, and lust, the three demons hiding in the abyss, will be nurtured by our own thoughts and actions. Initially, they are just small cracks, small compromises with conscience, but over time, these cracks will spread, eroding the moral self, pushing the person down the slope to depravity. And by the time they realize it, it may be too late. The abyss is right beneath their feet, ready to swallow everything. The fall, therefore, is not a sudden event, but a process, a subtle slide, where people gradually lose themselves, lose their values, their principles, and ultimately, their souls. After going through the haunting descriptions of the abyss, from the horrors in religion, philosophy, and literature to the traps of ambition and downfall, perhaps it is time to seek a glimmer of hope, a way out of the enveloping darkness. Is the abyss a life sentence, a dead end with no return? Or, hidden deep within that darkest place, is there an opportunity for humans to find their inner strength, to grow and to reach for the light? The answer, seemingly paradoxical, lies within the very nature of the abyss. Yes, the abyss is a place of fear, despair, and the darkest corners of the soul. But, as some philosophers and psychologists have pointed out, the very fall into that darkest place, the confrontation with ultimate fear, can become a turning point, an opportunity for humans to awaken. When falling into the abyss, when losing everything, when there is nothing left to hold on to, humans, in that moment of life and death, can find within themselves a hidden strength, a powerful will to survive, a something they never knew existed before. It is the primal instinct, the desire to live, to rise, to find meaning. Like a seed, it must be buried deep in the dark, moist earth to sprout and reach for the sunlight. The fall into the abyss, therefore, is not the end, but can be a new beginning, an opportunity for rebirth, to become a stronger, more mature version of oneself. The path to finding the light from the inner abyss in psychology is called shadow work. This is a therapy, a challenging journey of self-discovery, requiring courage and absolute honesty with oneself. Shadow work is not about rejecting or suppressing the shadow, the wounds, secrets, fears, and repressed desires, but about learning to face them, acknowledge them, and reconcile with them. Like the saying, "You have to enter the tiger's den to catch the cubs," to find the light, We must bravely enter the abyss within ourselves, illuminate the darkest corners, to understand ourselves, to heal the wounds, and to release the repressed energies. This process, of course, will be painful, will evoke unpleasant memories, will force us to face the ugly, terrifying parts of ourselves. But if we overcome it, if we integrate with the shadow, we will no longer be slaves to fear, to obsessions, to inner conflicts. We will become stronger, more confident, and more whole. Ultimately, the abyss, with all its dread and mystery, is both a trap and a test. Some stumble and are swallowed by darkness. Others bravely face it, overcome it, and find a new vision, an extraordinary maturity. Amidst the darkness, hope still flickers like a small candle in a storm. It is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. That Western proverb is the message that this chapter wants to convey. Darkness, the abyss, will always exist, both outside and within us. But the very existence of darkness is the foundation for light to become brighter and more meaningful. The choice in the end is up to each of us. Either let the abyss swallow us, or bravely face it, light the candle of hope, and step into the light. The abyss, with all its allure and terror, has become a tool, a test, helping us to reflect on ourselves, to better understand our limitations, our nature, and the inherent contradictions within us. It reminds us that darkness exists not only outside, but also lurks in our every thought, every emotion, every action. As Nietzsche's profound warning states, beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. This sentence is not just a threat, but also a profound warning. It shows that the line between good and evil, between light and darkness, between human and demon, is sometimes very thin. When we look into the abyss, when we let our minds dwell on negative thoughts, on dark desires, on constant fears, it is then that the abyss is also looking back at us, gradually invading our souls, turning us into a part of it. But the abyss is not just a symbol of negativity, of evil. It is also an opportunity, a motivation, a catalyst for growth. If we are aware enough, brave enough, not to be swallowed, not to be assimilated by the darkness, but instead to know how to illuminate the hidden corners, to know how to face and reconcile with internal conflicts, then the abyss will become an important milestone, a turning point in the journey of self-improvement. It is by looking into the abyss that we recognize our limitations, our weaknesses, our mistakes, and from there, we can correct, improve, and become stronger. The journey of exploring the abyss is not a leisurely stroll, but a challenging adventure, and it ends with an open question, a question that each person must find the answer to for themselves. What will you do when facing the abyss? Do you dare to step to the edge of the precipice, bravely look down, name the hidden demons, confront your own darkness? Or will you choose to turn away, run away, and let that darkness grow, silently gnawing at your soul? Whatever your choice, remember that the abyss, the darkness, will always be there, cold and waiting, as an inevitable part of life. Fleeing it may provide temporary safety, but also deprives you of the opportunity to understand yourself, to grow, and to live a full life. Because only by bravely facing the abyss, both the good and the evil within ourselves, can we discover our full potential, can we reach true light, and can we live a life without regrets. The abyss is not just a place, but also a journey, a process of self-discovery, and an inseparable part of being human. Remember this, so that whenever you face difficulties, challenges, or the hidden corners of your soul, you will have the courage to move forward, to illuminate, and to find the path to the best version of yourself.